Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Wirex Crypto Podcast. I'm your host, Lianna, and I'm very happy to introduce our guest for today, Georgy Sokolov, co-founder and vice president commercial at Wirex. Welcome, Georgy.
Hi, Lianna. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. In today's podcast episode, we're celebrating the anniversary of WXT, Wirex's native token. We'll talk about how WXT started, the challenges and successes along the way, how it's changed, and what's in store for the future. Georgy, thanks for being here today. And can you tell us about your professional background and the journey into Wirex?
Sure. Well, my path into Wirex was probably a little bit unconventional. Most people come from either the technical developer background or from financial background. Mine was neither. For the most part of my career, I was involved in heavy B2B aviation. So nothing to do with consumer, nothing to do with money. So thankfully, for crypto in particular, it's the case for almost everyone because crypto is a new industry in itself. But overall, the only common term between my previous career and the current one is, interestingly, airdrop. Because the last project I did at my previous company was launching flights into Antarctica, where we would literally airdrop proper real cargo in the areas that were too remote for a plane to land even on ice. So it was not a token airdrop, it was the real life airdrop. And in terms of Wirex itself, it's one of those classical stories where we were studying at the business school in London with Dmitry, one of the founders and current CEO of Wirex. And just got to know each other really well, got to work together on a number of study projects. So it was kind of an easy decision once he mentioned Bitcoin to me back in 2014, which was completely new to me at the time. Just dived straight into it. Thought it was really interesting and potentially breakthrough technology. And I knew Dmitry really well by then. And had no second thoughts and joined.
From one airdrop to another. Let's talk about WXT and what's the story behind the creation and how it became Wirex's native token.
Well, it was Wirex's native token from the beginning. So to start with, Wirex token, unlike a lot of projects in the space at the time, was not a product of the so-called ICO boom, which some people may remember, some people may not. Basically, everyone in 2017 was launching their own token, regardless of use, utility, whatever. No, most people didn't care about all that, right? People just wanted to raise a quick buck. Which wasn't the case for Wirex. Wirex, by the time the token was launched in the middle of 2019, was already quite an established product with a large, decent user base, with our main product, the card, working. I think we already had the e-money license from the UK FCA by then. So it was a question of offering something to the already existing and potential new customer base that would be a new generation of utility loyalty token. So it was utility token from the very beginning, and we got blessings from various regulators confirming that. And the main purpose of it was and still is, it's a loyalty mechanism within the system. Users would get perks, the actual set of perks and benefits from holding the token or staking the token were changing from time to time. We were looking at feedback, we were analyzing how it works, how it doesn't work, and changing accordingly. But basically it's become the loyalty ecosystem token from the beginning, and that's still its main role.
Yeah, I mean, like launching a token is not exactly a walk in the park, right? So what were some of the biggest challenges faced in launching WXT, and how did you overcome them?
It definitely wasn't a walk in the park. The most difficult part about it is probably all the legal exercises you have to go through when doing it. Especially, this was post-ICO boom when, 90, I wouldn't exaggerate if I said 95% of those projects went nowhere. People were either unsuccessful in meeting the goals of the fundraise, or never even had a goal to build anything. And the fundraise was a purpose in itself for a lot of projects back then. In our case, obviously, it was completely different, but you had to overcome that general sentiment that all ICOs are scams and yet another token is being launched. What is it? So two main challenges, I would say, were this bad sentiment and the bear market environment that the market was in at the time, as well as meeting all the regulatory, making sure all the legal checkboxes were ticked. So you obviously had to assure every regulator or every exchange, which then later on listed the token, that it wasn't a security, which in our case was fairly easy because we didn't have to prove something that's questionable. It was obvious from the tokenomics, from the use of the token. It was a utility token from the very beginning, and we actually got explicit blessings from quite a number of regulators, and the number of legal opinions we collected just to be on the safe side was very high. And knowing how other token projects work, because we were listing tokens and we keep listing tokens on our own platform as well, in terms of how well we were prepared on the legal side, it was at the top of the pack for sure. But yeah, all of that wasn't easy. It involved a lot of work, apart from obviously the technical side of things, where you just have to choose the right network. At the time, it felt like Stellar was the right network, and at the time it was. Then we developed, migrated, added other networks, etc.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been quite a challenge, because back in the day during the ICO, I still remember there were a lot of bad sentiments about tokens, right? What have been some of the key milestones for WXT over the past year?
I think the main feature of WXT is that it's like, one of those working horses. It keeps fulfilling its function. Slowly and steadily. So I wouldn't say there was much fundamentally breakthrough happening over the last year. It still is the utility, the loyalty, the reward token, mainly within the Wirex own ecosystem. A bit earlier, within the last 2 to 3 years, probably the biggest event that happened to the token was that it started getting use cases outside of the Wirex own ecosystem. So there's a DeFi protocol called Nereus, which Wirex partnered with some time ago and made an investment in it in WXT actually. And Nereus, which at the time was a lending protocol on Avalanche, made Wirex token its native token. So rather than launch a brand new unknown token with no audience, with no holders, they chose to have Wirex token as the native token of the protocol. And they, started with, I can't remember what it was, let's say 70 to 100,000 holders. So not a cold start, but start with already an existing audience. And at the time, Nereus quite quickly got to over 100 million AUM, total value locked, and it was quite a successful launch for them, and that caused quite a move in the Wirex token price itself. I think at the time it went from 0.2 cents to like 1 point something cents at the time, so it was quite a significant move. Which is not to say that's the main or the only thing we're looking at, just giving it as an example. We were never really focused on the chart of the token price, and that's something we've been looking into as well. So it has its own utility and function within the ecosystem. We want it to be useful and functional outside of the Wirex ecosystem as well. So give it a life in the kind of secondary markets, etc. Because otherwise, everything that happens outside of Wirex, just like with most other tokens, is pure speculation, and it's not something we really want to encourage. We want it to have real utility.
Well, it's kind of gone from success to success, right? The fact that it got approved by regulators, and then in terms of the price as well. How has WXT evolved since its launch, and What are some of the significant changes and improvements you'd say?
So from a perspective of just an outside observer, it's arguably hasn't been success to success yet, because the token hasn't been flying to the moon, right? Most people only look at the price chart, and if the token flies, it flies, then it's success. If it doesn't, it's not success. But completely different factors influence the price versus the fundamental utility, right? So price is pure speculation. There's someone wants to move the market, whether it's in an organic, correct way, or some kind of inorganic or just pump and dump schemes. We were never involved in that. So, but in terms of changes, it was just us experimenting with what brings most utility to users. So I remember in the very beginning, one of the key features available to people who held the token on the platform was, I think they paid lower transaction fees, that kind of thing. As we evolved, we saw that some things are working, some are not. And right now, the main functionality is if you hold a balance and you log substantial amount, you get higher cashback on Wirex, which is paid in WXT itself. So cashback, not even cashback, crypto back. We trademarked the term because we were the first one to introduce it. You get crypto back, which is cashback in WXT on every card transaction that you make, whether it's in-store or online. Even if you are the user on the basic free account, you still get 0.5% of crypto back on any transaction you make, except ATM withdrawals. And if you hold a high enough balance, you can increase this up all the way up to 8%. So me, myself, for example, as an employee, I get the top tier account, and so does Lianna. We get 8% cashback, which you can get as a user as well, but there's a certain number of criteria to meet. And then to meet those criteria, you pay your subscription in WXT, which is another use case for it. And another perk that it offers is if you are on a paid subscription tier, and if you have a certain number of tokens locked in, you get higher yield on our high yield savings accounts called X accounts. So it really, like, you just sit down, you run your calculations, and you can see how holding this or that amount of token actually helps you earn more or spend less or get higher cashback. And yeah, that's pretty much been the evolution. Most of the use cases are within the platform itself to provide benefits to the users and to be a loyalty mechanism for us.
I love the term crypto back. I think it's genius.
It's genius. It's good. The kind of drawback of it is I end up paying for friends way too often because I've got the cashback, so you pay more often than you should.
And how has WXT performed in the market over the past year, and what factors have influenced its value?
Well, to be honest, when I saw the question, I actually checked. So I looked at it, and it's been 115% up from where it was a year ago, and that's a correction from nearly 190% up from a year ago, which was in April. So it's performed reasonably well, I would say, better than any real life assets. But again, it's not something we're hardly particularly focused on, right? We strongly believe that if the product is good, if it's being used, if the community is growing, sooner or later it will be reflected in the price of the token. For now, I would argue it still hasn't, because for that reason, it's hard to comment on the factors, right? This market is way too speculative. And how do you evaluate the real value of another meme coin or shitcoin being launched, right? There's no fundamental value. It's pure speculation. So it's hard to make judgments there. But I think in the longer term, and we're in this game for the longer term for sure, have been since 2015. In the longer term, focusing on the product, increasing the real utility to users, the value to the users, and the number of users, and the size of the community, transaction volumes, various use cases, etc., for the product itself. And I think the token will catch up.
I mean, the fact that some tokens don't even last, past 6 months, right?
Days sometimes.
How have there been any significant partnerships or collaborations that have contributed to the success of WXT, you think?
Initially it was, I think that we made the right choice of doing the initial exchange offering on OKX. It was our partner from the outset, and seeing OKX themselves going from success to success, becoming more and more focused on regulation, on product quality, etc. It's been good, and they have become officially a Tier 1 exchange. A number of other exchanges that listed the token, some of them Gate.io, Huobi at the time, now HTX, quite a number of decentralized exchanges. So those partnerships are, of course, important. The blockchains themselves. So initially, as I mentioned, we launched on Stellar because Wirex has always been around about payments, and Stellar is a blockchain that's purely focused on the payments use case. So it was quite a good fit. Then we saw the development of all the EVM chains and the growth of DeFi. So we decided to expand from just one single blockchain to EVM chains, starting with Avalanche, then Ethereum and Polygon. You want to be multi-chain in this world, right? So another good one that I already mentioned was this partnership with Nereus, when it was a new lending protocol, actually launched by former Wirexes, who got an investment from Wirex in WXT, and that was quite successful for the token itself. And then let's see what future brings.
I mean, it's quite a journey, And how has the community around WXT grown and contributed to its success?
Community for the token potentially is the overall community of Wirex itself, which is more than 6 million registered users. Probably not all of them hold or use the token, but definitely any one of them that's ever held a card will be a token holder by default, because if you ever use the Wirex card, you would have received crypto back, which makes you maybe a small, but at least a holder of WXT anyway. So unlike a lot of the wide majority of tokens out there that have little use case in real life or in virtual life, and have, 5 holders if you start looking into the blockchain block explorers. In case of Wirex, it's hundreds of thousands of people who hold at least a small amount of it. So it's quite widely distributed. And the community is growing along with the community that uses the product. And you can see it's growing quite steadily.
I mean, it's quite a number and quite a trajectory, right? How do you think Wirex and WXT have impacted the industry, and what legacy do you hope it will create?
Well, we really hope that people perceive us and that's a legacy that we create and leave. We offer a real product, right? It's something that connects the cryptocurrency with the real world. So maybe I should go back in time a little bit. So at the time when we were starting, the problem that we saw was that cryptocurrency, or rather Bitcoin at the time, because we launched our first crypto card before Ethereum even existed. So it was actually a Bitcoin card. So we saw this problem that Bitcoin is technically proclaimed as a currency, but you can't really buy anything for it, right? And how do you go about it? Probably 2 main ways. One is try and convince every single merchant to start accepting cryptocurrencies, and good luck with that even today. Or the other way that we chose is give the holder of cryptocurrency a tool that they're familiar with, and that will allow them to spend this cryptocurrency in the real world without the merchant they're paying having to worry whether it's cryptocurrency or whatever they're spending. So we connected cryptocurrency or Bitcoin at the time with the card. You could convert your Bitcoin balance into your USD balance on the card and pay for your coffee, for your groceries, for whatever, your hotel, etc. It's evolved since then, and now Wirex is by functionality pretty much a hybrid neobank that combines cryptocurrencies, lots of them, not just Bitcoin, and payment card, and also individual bank accounts, and all savings products and loans products, and much more. So that is the legacy. It's a neobank or new. We can't say it's neobank because our license is an e-money license. It's not yet, at least not yet, a banking license. But in terms of functionality, it's pretty much a personal finance, personal banking application. You can use it with or without any other, connection to any other bank, but you can effectively use it instead of your bank. So all those proverbials, be your own bank and hold your own assets, and crypto must be usable in the real world to go into the mainstream. Every step of the way, every new release, every feature we work on, we try to contribute to that wider vision of making crypto as usable and as widespread as possible by connecting it to the real world payments and other financial instruments.
I mean, that is quite a legacy in itself, right? And I think, it's also like a being a pioneer in the industry, But on a personal note, what has been the most rewarding aspect of being involved with the launch of WXT? What were those experiences like?
Well, on a personal note, it's probably not as rewarding, at least at the time of launch, if we're talking about the time of launch. So at the time, I think for a number of reasons, I got almost like a yearly salary paid in WXT, and that was at the time when it peaked in its price. So and then it went a little bit down, and I think it still hasn't gone up as high as it was back then. So on a personal note, it was a little bit a disappointing experience, but as myself personally and as a business, as I already mentioned, we don't really focus on its price as one single indicator. In fact, it is one of the indicators, but by far not the most important. And by focusing on the product, we're pretty sure that it will sooner or later be reflected in the token. And then in terms of going back to the question of legacy, like of the token itself, right? Not of the product. So Extras, our loyalty program built on WXT with the crypto back being one of the features. It's at the time of launch, and arguably still today, it's one of the most advanced loyalty systems to date. Not just in the crypto industry, in the wider industry overall. So compare it to air miles or whatever loyalty mechanism exists out there. I think the official statistics are that 80 or 90% of those end up just lost and unspent because there's not much you can use them for, right? You got some miles, you haven't got enough for this, you can't transfer it in the case of WXT, you receive your crypto back and it's something you can do with straight away. It continues to bring you loyalty, you can exchange it into any other crypto or traditional currency. So the flexibility of this loyalty program was quite revolutionized by launching it using WXT. So yeah.
I mean, did you was that a moment where you kind of thought to yourself, wow, I built that, in terms of like that feeling, right? Maybe you can speak to us a little bit about that.
Well, I never could say I built that. It was we're
a team effort.
Yeah, we're more than I think somewhere between 200 and 250 people these days, and we have much smarter and brighter people working in this team, and I can only be very thankful to every team member. So it's always been a big joint collective effort for us.
That's amazing. What exciting developments or updates can users expect for WXT in the near future?
We will, as always, be more focused on the product and the users and the utility and the value than on the on WXT itself. The next big thing for Wirex in general is something called Wirex Pay, which is quite a breakthrough thing. So historically, the way it was possible, or the way we made it possible for cryptocurrency to be spent in real life was through a fully custodial architecture of the offering itself. Just to explain a bit what for those who may not understand. The speed of transaction on blockchain, let's take Bitcoin, because that's where we started, right? It's at least 10 to 15 minutes per transaction to be confirmed. Speed of transaction in the Visa and MasterCard network is sub 50 milliseconds. So how do you match those two? The only way to match those two is to give the cardholder an instant transaction, so they pay for their milk at the grocery store instantly and don't have to wait for 15 minutes for the transaction to settle, is to receive the Bitcoin from the person, from the customer in a custodial account. So we hold the cryptocurrency for the customer the same way a bank holds your euros or pounds or dollars for you. And when you make this transaction, the balance is already there. And that's why we're sure that we don't have to wait for the transaction to settle on the blockchain, because the actual crypto is already within the system. And that's why the transaction is instant. Now, that's got a set of benefits. So you can use cryptocurrency in the real world for real payments, but it's got drawbacks as well. So it goes against the whole philosophy of cryptocurrency, that you as a holder of it should be the only one who holds it, right? So this famous mantra, not your keys, not your crypto. Now with cryptocurrency technology evolving and with the proliferation of layer 2s recently, it's become possible to solve that problem, right? So Wirex Pay is a modular ZK payment chain built on top of Polygon layer 2, which allows the same functionality. So you're able to spend your crypto the same way instantly without worrying whether it's, crypto you're spending or fiat or whatever with the card or by other payment rails, but without ever giving up custody of your funds. So directly from your self-custodial wallet, whether you use MetaMask or Coca wallet or Trust wallet, whatever, you connect it to the Wirex Pay account, which is an account abstraction on EVM, the EVM compatible chain. You bridge your assets to Polygon layer 2, and that's it. And the only second or fraction of second when you actually give up the ownership of your money is the actual transaction, where you actually pass it from yourself to the merchant. Otherwise, nothing can happen to your funds. You hold your private keys, you hold it in your self-custodial wallet. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So that's another big thing. Whether it will be WXT or whether it will be a separate token for Wirex Pay itself is still being debated. But yeah, that's the big new thing for the product and potentially for the token itself as well.
I mean, you've got crypto back, you've got Wirex Pay. I mean, all these exciting stuff. That's really, really amazing. Lastly, is there anything you'd like to say to the WXT community and supporters as you celebrate this milestone?
The main thing to say to the supporters and the community is just a big, huge thank you. Thank you for the continued trust. Thank you for using our product. Thank you for telling us what works, what doesn't work, for helping us improve. And we hope we will be improving it and make this gap between Web 2 and Web 3, between the traditional finance and the cryptocurrency world, smaller and smaller. And eventually it will probably just disappear.
Amazing. Thank you, Georgy, for joining us today and sharing your insights. It's been great hearing about WXT, its journey and its impact. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. We're excited to see what the future holds for WXT.
And I think, I was told by our marketing team, it's actually quite a stunning number. I think in preparation for the episode, because it's kind of a special one, the 5-year anniversary of the token, we received 400 questions from the community. And it was really time-consuming exercise to go through all of them and pick one. The one we picked to answer may not be as complex, but that's the beauty of it. So the question asked was, what is the difference between Wirex Pay and Coca Wallet? They seem to offer the same functionality, which is good in its simplicity, right? On the one hand. On the other hand, if you start digging into it, it's quite interesting. So I really want to address that one. So Wirex Pay I just described, right? So it's a fully self-custodial app with card, with IBANs and all of the payment features that we're just about to launch. And Coca Wallet is a partner project that chose Wirex to add a card to the non-custodial wallet, which they are. And it's exactly right. The question is very much to the point. So they seem to offer very similar functionality. But if you start looking into it, it's actually quite different. So Coca Wallet, there's, I think, a number of wallets out there that offer the same functionality and that in the marketing communications claim to be self-custody, which to a degree is true. You as a holder of crypto hold it in your own self-custodial wallet. But when you want to bridge it to the real world to be able to spend it with the card, you actually have to convert the crypto from your self-custodial wallet into fiat currency, and that's what creates the card's balance, right? So that large or small portion of your assets that's converted into fiat and held on the card balance is actually held by the issuer. In case of Coca Wallet, it's Wirex underneath, under the hood. But this is no longer crypto. This is e-money held by a licensed company, which Wirex is. So it's effectively your main balance is in your self-custodial wallet under your own custody, but your card balance is actually e-money sitting with the issuer of the card, which in this case is Wirex, or in case of other wallets available in the market could be another company, which is a big step forward compared to the full custodial setup that I described earlier, but it's still nowhere near where Wirex Pay is. With Wirex Pay, there's no such thing as fiat balance on the card. The transaction happens on the fly in real time, and your crypto from your layer 2 self-custodial wallet is spent directly pretty much with the merchant, and you never give up custody. So even that balance that's on the card, you're not trusting it to any third party, right? So you are the ultimate holder of your own currency, and that makes a huge difference, both from technological perspective, it's a much more advanced solution, from the user perspective, because at no point are your funds at any risk with any third party. Should something happen to the card itself, you need to update your KYC information or whatever, there's a question in transaction monitoring about the particular transaction, there's no way your funds can be blocked or taken away from you by anyone, right? By a legit player, by a not legit player, doesn't matter. You hold your currency always in your custody, and that's a huge difference again. And then from the whole philosophy of crypto standpoint, that's also a huge step forward, because you finally actually your own bank with all the benefits that cryptocurrency offers, but also with all the benefits that traditional world payment system offer you. So the best of both worlds out there. So that's the main difference.
Well, thank you, Georgy, for answering the community's question and for joining us today and sharing your incredible story. It's been great hearing about WXT, its journey and its impact. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. We're excited to see what the future holds for WXT.
Cool. Yeah, thanks again for having me. And we'll look forward to the next successful 5 years and more, and hopefully even more successful.
Congratulations once again. And to all our fantastic listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Don't forget to express your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and until we meet again, stay well.